Ideally, I'd like to start all of our crops outside instead of in the grow room. It would save energy, reduce our lighting and heating costs, and we wouldn't have to harden off crops in the spring. We're taking a step in that direction this year by starting all of our cold hardy crops outside. We also plan to start some of our tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants outside, and compare the results to the same crops started indoors in the grow room. Of course, having a greenhouse helps, but even if you don't have one, you can start seeds outdoors in winter in mini greenhouses like this plastic bottle, using an approach called winter sowing. I'll talk more about that later. But first, let's take a look at the seeds we're starting today in our hoop house. Here in Zone 5, it's much too early to start crops outside in unprotected areas of the garden. But the 2 layers of protection offered by our cold frames, low tunnels, and hoop house create a microclimate that's more like Zone 8 than Zone 5. And there are a number of crops you can start now in Zone 8. To get an idea of what I can plant now in my Zone 8 microclimate, I use a seed starting calculator provided by Johnny's Selected Seeds. I enter a last frost date of March 15th, which is fairly typical for Zone 8. The calculator provides indoor seed starting dates, but I want to know when it's safe for plants to be outside in my Zone 8 microclimate. So I'm interested in the setting out date, which is in the far right column. Scanning down the chart, I see that a number of crops I'd like to plant can be set out in mid-February, including collards, kale, lettuce, onions, and spinach. This gives me confidence that I can go ahead and start these seeds now. My confidence is further bolstered by the fact that many of these crops are already growing in the winter garden. Most of the winter garden is already covered with a thick carpet of green, so there's very little bare soil to plant. But I do have a small spot in this cold frame where I can plant lettuce and spinach. I plant lettuce seeds about 1/4 inch deep and spinach seeds about 1/2 inch deep. I plant them much closer together than the seed packets recommend. Later I'll thin them by harvesting some as microgreens while allowing others to grow to maturity. This way we can start harvesting much earlier and we'll have a larger yield. With no more space to plant directly in the garden, I'll start the rest of our seeds today in containers inside the hoop house. I'll start by planting Walla Walla Onions in this plastic covered seedling tray. The potting mix is 2 part coconut coir, 1 part commercial organic potting mix, 1 part coarse sand, and 1 part homemade worm castings. In our experience, the worm castings and commercial potting mix have more than enough nutrients for our seedlings, and we never use additional fertilizers. I plant the onion seeds about 1/4 inch deep, placing 2 or 3 seeds in every cell. With the lower soil mass and flimsy plastic cover, this setup doesn't offer as much protection as one of our cold frames, but I'm fairly confident it will be sufficient. As with our cold frames and low tunnels, we'll have to vent or remove the top of the container on sunny days. Though we still use some store-bought products in our potting mix, I'd like to move away from this in the future. When starting seeds outdoors in containers, I'll use a simple mix of garden soil and homemade worm castings. Unfortunately, at the moment, all of our garden soil is frozen solid. So next winter, I'll save a bucket of garden soil in the hoop house, so we'll have an unfrozen supply for seed starting. Next, I'll start collard greens in this plastic jug. To prepare the jug, I first poke drainage holes in the bottom and ventilation holes in the cap. I cut the jug about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom, leaving just enough uncut plastic to act as a hinge as shown here. I fill the bottom with potting soil and plant several collard green seeds about 1/2 inch deep. I then tape the jug and label it. To make better use of the vertical space in the hoop house, I'm hanging the jug from a purlin with a coat hanger. I also planted dinosaur kale in these bottles using a similar approach. As the weather gradually warms over the next several weeks, I'll first move the containers outside of the hoop house, and then in mid-April I'll transplant the onions, collards, and kale into unprotected areas of the garden, as long as there isn't much snow in the forecast. That finishes our planting for today. Now let's step outside to talk about how we'll be getting an early start on a number of other crops this year. Come on, Oscar. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Even though there's still snow on the ground and it's quite cold out, I'll be starting seeds in these garden beds in just a few weeks. The cold frames and low tunnels create a Zone 6B microclimate here in Zone 5. This extra protection allows us to start cold hardy crops starting in early March. Some of the crops we'll be starting will be peas, carrots, parsnips, and turnips. Well, it's getting cold out here. I'm going to get back in the hoop house. As I said earlier, we'd really like to start all of our seeds outside instead of in the grow room. This year, as an experiment, we'll start some of our tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants in containers like this inside the hoop house in early to mid-March. At the same time, we'll start the same crops in our grow room. Over the course of the growing season, we'll compare the results. If plants sown outside do as well as those started indoors, we'll start even more seeds outside next year. And over time, ideally, I'd like to move away from using the grow room entirely, if possible. Before closing, I want to talk about a way that you can start seeds outdoors in winter, even if you don't have a greenhouse, cold frames, and low tunnels. All you need is some plastic bottles and jugs. There's a really great Facebook community called Winter Sowers, where you can learn to start seeds outdoors in the winter in plastic containers. They prepare the containers much like I did earlier in the video, and they put them right in the snow in a sunny spot. They use this approach for everything from lettuce to tomatoes. My understanding is that they typically start seeds outdoors on the same date that is recommended for starting indoors. But for more information, please visit the Winter Sowers Facebook page. I've included a link in the description. Over the next several weeks, I hope to bring you more videos as I plant more crops outside in winter. I'll also share my results as they unfold, good or bad. If you'd like to see my planting schedule for March, please see the link in the description. By midsummer, I should have a pretty good idea if this approach will work, and I can move away from starting seeds indoors and plant most or maybe even all of my seeds outdoors in the future. Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, remember, you can change the world 1 yard at a time.